The Avalon spacecraft is on its way to a colonized world called Homestead 2. All its premises are empty. The vessel is working on autopilot. 258 crew members and 5,000 passengers are in a state of hibernation. Avalon passes through the asteroid belt, one of which weakens the protection, which causes various malfunctions. Ship system by mistake. One of the hibernation capsules, launching the awakening process of mechanical engineer Jim Preston. He learns that he spent 120 years in suspended animation, and after 4 months the ship will arrive at the destination. Jim confirms his identity, receives instructions about his cabin and main activities, in which he must take part before arriving on the planet. In the excited upcoming to meet other people, he goes to an automated training class. Jim alarm covers when a hologram explains the situation on planet Earth according to which the world, to which we are so accustomed faced with the problem of overpopulation. Jim aggressively tries to find out where are all the other people, but understands that the hologram cannot answer these questions. Getting there, to the main lobby of the ship, or contact a real person. He is referred to a steward who does not find himself in place. He feels disappointment when he goes to talk to the captain of the ship. Jim gradually realizes that none of the main crew woke up, and when he gets to the observatory, he finds out that the ship is actually in the 90s of flight from Homestead 2, and as a result of a system failure it woke up too early. Jim tries to send a message to Earth asking what he should do for return to hibernation. However, the system reports that it will leave for communication with the Earth at an inflated rate, about 55 years to get an answer. After this, Jim is completely devastated. He roams the ship and finds a bar where he sees another person. A bartender named Arthur pours him a drink. However, after a few seconds, really android. The next day, Jim learns that most of the dishes on the menu are reserved for golden class passengers only. He takes his coffee and tries to figure out how to fix the camera. Hibernation. Taking out the necessary tools, he sets the capsule into action. However, nothing happens. He also fails to break through the cameras of the crew's hibernation. Jim is starting to come to the bar more and more, for a drink, but mostly to talk to your only interlocutor, Android Gibbs. He has some advice, convincing him to move to one of the rooms of the golden class and try a little, have fun on the ship. Jim starts going to restaurants and cinemas, getting to know the entertainment system, but a whole year of solitude starts to slowly drive him crazy. One day, well drunk, he stumbles upon a gateway with spacesuits designed to exit into the open space. Once outside the ship, by letting go magnets on his shoes, he hovering in space and feels even more devastated. Jim returns inside the ship and, already ready to end it all, intends to go out into the open space without a spacesuit. But at the last moment he abandons this idea and, in a hurry, leaves. Room slips on the bottles he once threw. Jim gets up, and his attention attracts a woman named Aurora sleeping in one of the capsules. He finds her files in the directory, looks, interviews, and days on end thinks only about her. After some time, Jim becomes obsessed. The ironies of the whole situation. Going to another planet for a better life, and now he will definitely not get there, and he finds his beloved only in order to understand how out of reach she is. He expresses all these experiences to Arthur, and the thought comes to him to wake up Aurora. He understands that if he does this, he will doom the girl to death with him on the ship. In the end, unable to let go of this thought, Jim activates the girl's capsule and, after making sure she wakes up, runs away to her room. He cheats, Aurora pretending that her capsule, like his, opened ahead of time due to problems on ship, and says that they are the only ones who do not sleep. The girl panics and wants to immediately return to her capsule. However, Jim explains that there is no special equipment on the ship to help them return to sleep. After, they return to the lobby and Jim sends Aurora to rest. Sitting in the bar, Preston feels his guilt and regrets what he did. He asks Arthur not to reveal the reason for the girl's awakening. The next day, Aurora tries to learn as much as possible about the hibernation capsule. Jim joins her, and they have breakfast together. In the meantime, minor problems and system failures occur throughout the ship. Having learned that Jim has been eating the same breakfast for over a year, the girl gets him a tray from Golden Class Menu. They talk about the possibility of fixing the capsule, but unlike Preston, Aurora, not ready to give up. The girl searches the medical compartment, looks through research documents, and ends up in a room for crew hibernation, trying to break doors, which is so... and Jim failed. It's been over a week. Aurora writes about her life on Avalon, runs and swims in the pool, more and more aware of her position. She decides to interview Jim, thinking the story can be interesting. When asked why he emigrated, Jim does not answer immediately, but then opens to a girl, explaining that in the new world, he could become someone and build his new life. Later, Aurora shares her story. Unlike other passengers on the ship, she has a ticket back and forth. The idea was to go to Constantminus 2, live there for a year, and return to Earth, becoming the first journalist to ever do this, and write the greatest story. After a while, Aurora gradually gives up in search of a way to rectify their situation. Jim wants to cheer her up and takes her to dances, to the movies, and to the basketball court. Finally, he takes her to the bar to meet Arthur. She relaxes a little for the first time in a long time, does not yet remember their situation. Jim is left alone with the android and tells Arthur that it feels terrible again because of its act. Finally, Preston decides to invite girl on a date. Jim finally has someone to share this great experience with. Between them, a novel begins, which gains momentum over time. Aurora moves into Preston's cabin, and they begin to live together. They run together, eat together, sleep together. Jim continues to explore a ship and finds the hydroponics compartment, after which the guy brings fresh flowers to the girl. One day, the ship passes the red giant, and they go to the observatory to contemplate. This is splendor. On Aurora's birthday, after a year of relationship, proposal. In the evening in the bar, behind a relaxed conversation and an incorrect interpretation of the nuances of human communication, Arthur tells Aurora that Jim awakened her, not suspecting that I still had to keep it a secret. The girl falls into a rage and runs away. Jim returns to his room to find that all of Aurora's belongings have disappeared. The girl starts avoid any interaction with him, and one day, being on the verge of despair, bursts into the night, his room, and punches, threatening to end him. All Jim's attempts to apologize and explain the motive of their actions does not find a response from the heart of Aurora. She can't forgive him. What he is took her life, therefore the quarrel remains unresolved for them. After some time, Aurora finds a tree previously planted by Jim in the main lobby. The girl is amazing, however it does not lead to reconciliation. Both of them are increasingly noticing malfunctions on the ship, and suddenly through the system, the voice of the senior mate captain is heard broadcasting, asking who the hell planted a tree on the ship. Aurora and Preston, running from the lobby, meet Gus Mancuso, who is not understands how 3 hibernation capsules could fail. He leads them to the captain's bridge, and the 3 of them are looking for a malfunction manually, since the diagnostic system turned out to be inoperative. Mancuso finds out that only 2 capsules failed, and when he learned that Aurora was awakened by Jim, condemns the guy, saying he killed the girl. Mancuso clearly has a health problem, and after a while, he feels worse. In addition to general weakness, he begins to cough up blood. At night, unable fall asleep, suddenly the system fails all over the ship. Gravity, and the girl almost dies, and Jim, who was sleeping at this time, breaks his nose. The captain's mate finds out what actually happened to the ship 2 years ago. It turns out, these disruptions over time can lead to the death of everyone on board. Therefore, their task, fix the malfunction. In the technical compartment, Gaz loses consciousness. Scanning in medical, the capsule shows Mancuso has 612 pathologies caused by the failure of his capsule, and he's left to live a few hours. Before death, he asks them to take care of each other and save the ship, handing over. Jim has his captain's bracelet. Alert goes on throughout the ship, and faults on the ship become as critical as possible. Arthur refuses to work correctly. As a result, why it is deactivated. When they reach the technical room, Jim and Aurora bump into the compartment, which was depressurized. After staking a hole, Jim realizes that the meteorite that pied through the ship made more than one hole, and finds that it hit the reactor control computer. All attempts to restore work are unsuccessful. Jim guesses the only way out. This is to cool the reactor, open the ventilation door on the outside of the ship. At the airlock, Jim gives Mancuso's bracelet to Aurora because he understands perfectly well that he may not return. Aurora helps him put on a spacesuit, and says that he will not be able to live on the ship without him. Being at ventilation door, Jim realizes that he will have to manually hold it until the reactor cools. Aurora doesn't like it at all, they argue, but in the end Jim convinces the girl that he have to do it. As a result, everything goes well, but the pressure rips Jim off and pushes his into outer space. His cable breaks and the pressure in his spacesuit drops. Jim asks again Aurora's forgiveness and closes his eyes from lack of oxygen. Girl ratchets into the airlock and puts on a spacesuit to get out into outer space, and miraculously manages to grab Jim. In a panic, Girl struggles Preston into the medical bay, where he learns he is already dead. Aurora uses Mancuse's bracelet to bypass protocols and resuscitate Jim. The capsule does its job and brings Jim to his senses, after which Aurora tells Jim that she forgives him. Avalon continues to travel according to its route. Aurora fixes Arthur, and with Preston, they arrange a proper funeral for Gas. After a while, capsules allowing him to bring them back to sleep. He invites the girl to hibernate and continue. This is a journey, however, Aurora refuses and decides to spend the rest of his life with Jim on the ship. In the last scenes of the film, the ship's crew wakes up to see a real garden in the main lobby Aurora left for. Their message describing their life story with Jim.